Okay, everybody, welcome to your very favorite comic book Bronze Age podcast. This is Flea Market Fantasy. This is your co-host, Mike-DELL, and as always, I'm joined by...
Mike-DELL of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That is right. And after all of the complaints we got last week...
I always like how you say that is right, as if I'm going to get it wrong.
Yeah. You know? That is correct. Anyway, so after the excursion into pseudo-adult comics last week, we're right back to the fisticuffs of the superheroes. Yes. Why don't you tell us what we're reading this week, Mike-DELL?
Well, Mike-DELL, I know you claim to be a proud Canadian, even though I have my doubts. But I always wished I was Canadian.
Really?
Yeah, because, you know, all my favorite hockey players are Canadian.
Well, I imagine, yeah.
And growing up, my favorite character was Wolverine. He's Canadian.
That's true.
So today we're going to read Alpha Flight number 12 from 1984.
That's right. And can I ask why you picked number 12? Just out of curiosity.
Completely random.
Really?
I was just looking through the covers because I had never read any Alpha Flight.
Wow.
I just, like, no issues of the series. I just know Alpha Flight from the X-Men when they appeared there, and there was a 2-issue limited series, X-Men and Alpha Flight, that I love.
Right.
But I never read any of the series, so I was just looking through the covers. This cover intrigued me, and then I found out that it was a pretty significant moment in the history of Alpha Flight as well.
That's right, it sure is. Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I thought you picked it. But anyway.
No, it was all just because of the cover. I thought, that looks good.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, so Alpha Flight, Michael, they made they're Canada's super team. They're like Canada's X-Men, right?
Right, you could say that, yep.
And they first appeared in X-Men issue 120, 1979, and their regular series ran from 1983 to 1994 for 130 issues. Now, you told me earlier you had all these?
No, I had the John Byrne ones.
Okay.
Sorry, when I said all of them, I meant the John Byrne ones. That was back when I was a huge John Byrne fan.
Yeah, John Byrne is the writer and the artist here, and he co-created most of these characters with Chris Claremont. There's a few he did on his own we'll talk about. But he drew and wrote the first 28 issues of Alpha Flight.
Right.
So you had all 28.
That's right.
That's pretty good.
And then I read them all, and then I immediately sold them. But anyway.
Fair enough. There's also a volume 2 of Alpha Flight in 1997 that had like an entirely new team. And it ran for 20 issues. Were you familiar with that at all?
I think I might have had number 1. I think it was written by Steven Seagal.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
There's also a volume 3 in 2004 that ran for 12 issues. I think it was just a 12-issue limited series kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And then volume 4 in 2011, which was an 8-issue limited series. So look at Alpha Flight. And Michael, I just saw today there are rumors that Alpha Flight will be joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Really? That's pretty cool.
Now, will that make your heart swell with pride?
Not quite. Well, I mean, for Canada's sake, yes, but otherwise, no.
Yeah, because we talked about this on the show before, but the pickings for Canadian superheroes are pretty slim, right?
Pretty slim, that's true. Other than Wolverine, there's not really many really cool ones.
Yeah, and like DC doesn't have... Who was the one you said DC has?
Centrix. But
Centrix.
They actually have a few more, but when I Googled Canadian superheroes DC, that's pretty much all that came up. But I did some further research, and there are a few more, but not many.
Like, what is Centrix? Like, what's his deal?
Oh, I have nothing. He has a jacket. That's about all I know about him. He first appeared in 1994, and I could really find out nothing else about him, so I think there's not really much to him,
He's just really good with the metric system.
Right, there you go.
But I should say, I was concerned that, Canada doesn't have a lot of superheroes, but as we established in the G.I. Joe episode, the Canadian Ministry of Propaganda just tells all the kids that everyone's from Canada anyway.
This is true. Yep, this is true.
So when you were a kid, did you think Spider-Man was from Canada?
No. See, when I was a kid, I was painfully aware that all these characters were, American. And that's why whenever I would read, the G.I. Joe file card, I was like, oh, wow, a lot of these guys are from Canada. This is weird. But I just didn't realize that they were just rewriting everything for us, you know?
They all got recruited into the U.S. military for some reason.
Yeah.
That is strange. So Alpha Flight, they're all based out of what we call Department H.
Right.
Department H, which is basically the Canadian government's secret department to monitor and, I don't know, develop superheroes. Would that be a way to describe Department H?
Well, yeah, and I believe it is based on a real thing. I believe, right?
Really?
I think so. As far as I know, yep, I think so.
Wow, I didn't know Canada had a department for monitoring superheroes.
No, we didn't. That's not what it actually does. I think it's kind of like saying, you know, I don't want to say Area 51, but you know how there's kind of like a mythological significance to Area 51? Well, there is a real Area 51. It's not about aliens and stuff like that. So I think
says you.
Like yeah, exactly.
But maybe in their Department H, the real Department H, they just monitor hockey players.
That could be it. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. And Alpha Flight was like the premier team of superheroes. And then you also had Beta Flight and Gamma Flight.
That's right.
They were kind of like the developmental leagues for Alpha Flight. So, like, I know if you probably love your baseball, Mike-DELL, but Alpha Flight's like the major leagues. You know, then you got Beta Flight's like AAA, and Gamma Flight's AA.
I've heard of these terms before. Yes, I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
You love the baseball.
Yeah.
So let's go through the Alpha Flight team here.
Sure.
The leader is a fella named Guardian. Sometime his name was Vindicator for a little bit.
Right.
And his real name is James Hudson. And his first appearance was X-Men 109 from 1978. Yep. Created by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. He's from London, Ontario.
Woo!
This is what I like about the Alpha Flight, Mike-DELL. Every member's from a different part of Canada.
Yep.
Yeah.
You ever been to London?
Do you have a connection with Guardian because you're also from Ontario?
Well, no. I mean, I do think he's cool, and half my family's from London, so that's kind of cool.
Oh. How about that?
Or they grew up, they moved to London. So yeah, I've been there a million times.
But I love the Guardian's costume.
Oh, it's great.
Describe it for the kids.
It's basically, you know, the Canadian flag on his body. So the cool thing about it, so it's basically the Canadian flag, but the cool thing is it's kind of it's a nice modern design where instead of like the maple leaf being in like the middle of his chest, it's kind of like a gigantic enlarged, you know, flag imprinted onto his chest. So like half the maple leaf is kind of like on half of his chest, and then like his helmet or his mask is white, his gloves are white, and the rest is kind of like the flag design. Yeah,
it's a great costume.
Yeah,
really good stuff. You know who else has a great costume based on a flag? Captain Britain.
Oh yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. James Hudson was also an engineer for the Amcan Oil Company, and he developed a suit to help find oil deposits. It's kind of like a big old Iron Man kind of suit. But then he found out the government wanted to use the suit as a weapon, so he stole the suit and then took its helmet, which was used to control the suit. And a young secretary at the company named Heather McNeil joined him on his little escapade.
Right.
And that Heather McNeil would fall in love, and they'd get married, and she would have become Heather Hudson. So, yeah, we'll talk about her later. But so to get out of going to jail, he cut a deal with the Canadian government and said, hey, I'll head up your Department H. And they put him in charge of, Alpha Flight and the whole program. And the Hudsons, on their honeymoon, they found a guy wandering around the wilderness named Wolverine.
That's right.
How about that, Mike-DELL?
Yeah.
Without the Hudsons getting together to make the sweet, sweet love, we never have Wolverine.
They left that out of the movies, eh?
Yeah. So Hudson, what was the deal with Wolverine at the time? He was more like animalistic, or he kind of lost his way, or somehow.
As far as I know, this was right at that's his first memory. I think he broke out of.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, out of the Weapon X program, and then his first memory was basically, wandering through the forest and then meeting the Hudsons, which is really cool.
I forgot about the whole Weapon X thing.
Yep.
And so James Hudson brought him into Alpha Flight program, and Wolverine was groomed to become the leader of Alpha Flight.
Right.
But then he bailed. And the reason he bailed was because he had an attraction to Heather.
Right.
And he didn't want to mess up their marriage. This Wolverine guy, he's a bad boy. Even though he's 5'3" and really hairy, he's always getting the ladies. And like the same thing with Scott Summers and Jean Grey. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
The Hudsons. So when Wolverine bailed on Alpha Flight, that eventually is why Alpha Flight premiered in X-Men, because they were created to be Canada's superhero team, and they were mad that Wolverine left after they put all this investment into him to be their leader. So their first appearance in X-Men was they were trying to recapture Wolverine and bring him back to Canada.
Now, can I tell you something you might not know?
Sure.
That story was actually suggested by Dave Cockrum as he was pretty much leaving the title, X-Men. He basically kind of, I don't know, it was figuratively, but he was like walking out the door and he kind of said, by the way, I hope the Canadian government sends someone to come after Wolverine because they'd be pissed, right? That he just kind of ditched them. And John Byrne looked at Chris Claremont and he was like, we have to tell that story. And so that's where that idea for that came from. So
well, that's really pretty cool. Yeah. And when they were creating Alpha Flight, they tried to balance them against the X-Men in terms of powers and stuff. So you can kind of pick up on that, I think. But so we'll talk about that more. So we mentioned Heather McNeil / Heather Hudson. Her first appearance was X-Men 139, 1980, and created by Claremont and Byrne. And she was from Calgary, Alberta.
Right.
How about that? Calgary, Alberta. So then we have North Star.
Mm-hmm.
Jean-Paul Beaubier. Is that how you say it? Beaubier? Beaubier?
I'm going to skim through. How is it spelled?
Beaubier.
Let me just look at it.
He's from Quebec. So Beaubier?
Oh, it's I would say Balbier.
Balbier.
Yeah, Balbier.
All right, Jean-Paul Balbier.
Or
first appearance.
Bobier. Sorry, Bobier. I would say Bobier.
Bobier. First appearance, X-Men 120, 1979, Claremont and Byrne. And, by the way, Mike-DELL, how do you pronounce Quebec?
Well,
how do you say it?
I mean, I'm an Americanized Canadian because I live in Windsor, but it is Quebec.
Yeah, that's how I like to. My favorite hockey team of all time is the Quebec Nordiques.
Really? Why is that?
Because when I was a kid and I first started following hockey, they were terrible.
Okay.
And no one knew who they were.
Mm-hmm.
Here in the States. They're like, Quebec Nordiques, what the hell? And they had a cool logo, cool jersey, so I'm like, I'm going to follow them. Yeah.
Nice.
Right.
I gotta say one thing. I'm not, I'm not a sports fan, but one thing I'm very, passionate about is that I would rather all Canadian teams stayed in Canada.
Yeah. I
mean, you can understand why, right?
Of course, Quebec left, went to Colorado, and won 2 Stanley Cups. So what are you gonna do?
Ugh,
yeah, it's a shame. So this Jean-Paul Beaubier is a Olympic level skier, Olympic champion skier, I should say. He won gold medals and stuff, right? From what I recall. His powers are his super speed, although he said he never used them in competition. Okay, Jean-Paul.
Sure. You did.
Yeah, we believe that. He also has some light powers. He can shoot light and concussive beams and stuff, I guess. Especially when he's in contact with his sister. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about in a minute. And he was the first openly gay character in Marvel Comics. He came out as gay in issue 106 in 1992.
That's right.
North Star. And we mentioned he had a twin sister named Aurora. And
Aurora.
Aurora.
Yeah.
I wrote Aurora. So, all right, Aurora. And her real name is Jean-Marie Beaubier.
Yep, there you go.
And she's a twin sister of North Star, but they were separated at birth. Well, not at birth, after birth. They were like driving with their parents, and there was a car wreck, and their parents died, so they were split up and went into different foster homes.
Okay.
And they grew up not knowing about each other.
Interesting.
And North Star, the parents at his foster home, they also died.
Whoa.
So yeah, he's pretty cursed. His parents always dying. So this Jean-Marie, she also has the schizophrenia.
Well, dissociative identity disorder, right?
Yeah, and I think I guess later though they seem to call it schizophrenia.
Okay.
But yeah, because the dissociative, the whatever DID, when she's Jean-Marie, she's all shy and introverted and quiet, and then when she's Aurora, she's like a sex pot, right? A really aggressive, flirty,
right,
extrovert. Yeah. And as I mentioned, with her and North Star, when they did get together finally, because James Hudson found Aurora first. Or no. Wolverine is responsible for Aurora going to Alpha Flight.
Okay.
Because she was getting mugged on the street, and she beat off one of the muggers, and Wolverine came in and helped her get rid of the other one. And then he said, "Hey, you got some powers. You should go meet my buddy James Hudson at Alpha Flight." So she went to Alpha Flight with James Hudson, and then James Hudson realized that she was the sister of North Star, and he used that to bring North Star in, and they were reunited.
Nice. Happy ending.
Yeah. Although they seem to have a lot of squabbles over the years.
Right. You can tell in this issue for sure.
They're not exactly a loving brother and sister. So that brings us to Sasquatch, Dr. Walter Lankowski. He also premiered in X-Men 120, and he's from Vancouver, British Columbia. The Canucks.
Yeah. Yep.
And basically, he was trying to do experiments on gamma radiation like the Hulk. And
coincidence, yeah.
And he turned into a giant creature with orange fur, and he's 10 feet tall, 2,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And he took the name Sasquatch after the mythical creature of Bigfoot.
Right.
How do you feel about Sasquatch, Michael?
He's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's visually striking, you know?
Yeah, there's one thing I always liked about him, and that's that even though he's really big, he's still kind of lean. You notice that?
He's kind of lean.
Yeah, he's not like bulky like the Hulk. He's kind of like, he looks nimble. I like that.
He looks nimble, like a monkey. Yeah. Shaman is next.
Right.
And his real name is Michael Two Young Men.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird last name. Two Young Men.
Yeah.
It's very strange. All right, so he also first appeared in X-Men 120, and he's also from Calgary, Alberta, like Heather McNeil was. And he was part of the Sarcee Indian tribe, and he was a surgeon who couldn't save his wife, so he became reclusive and went out in the wilderness to live, and he studied the mystic arts of the Sarcee traditions. And basically, it's like Doctor Strange.
Right.
And his big gimmick is he has a purse.
I love it. Yep.
Tell the kids about his purse, Michael.
Well, he basically just reaches into it and kind of whatever he needs is in there, right?
Yeah, basically. And
bottomless.
the key is he can't look inside it though. It's like
I forgot about that. What happens? Does he go crazy?
Yes. Well, he was just warned. His grandfather, who was a Sarcee mystic shaman, told him, never look into the pouch.
Mm-hmm.
It's very dangerous. And in this issue, we see what happens when someone looks into the pouch. So we'll get into that later. A couple more. There's a lot of people in Alpha Flight. Holy fuck. All right. Snowbird, real name Narya, also premiered in X-Men 120. And she's from the Northwest Territories.
Right.
And Michael, when I was looking through the Canadian map today, as I'm wont to do, I realized for the first time there is a territory that I'd never heard of.
Oh, really?
It's way up north, and it's called Navutu, something
Nunavut.
Yeah, say it again.
Nunavut.
Nunavut, never heard of it.
Yeah, well, Nunavut didn't come into existence until like 1999.
Oh, okay, that could be why. Because I haven't looked at a Canadian map since 1991.
Okay, because basically it used to be there was the Yukon Territory and then the Northwest Territories.
Yes.
And then that was split up, and then there was, now it's Nunavut Territory and Northwest. It's confusing because the Northwest Territories consists of 3 districts. So I don't know. It's all just depends on, I'm sure, funding for government and all that stuff, but it's mostly just empty wilderness.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you have a favorite territory?
If I had to pick, it'd be Yukon.
Yukon. And for the kids who aren't familiar with the Canadian map, that's way up like northwest.
Right, it's bordering Alaska, yep.
Yeah, the Yukon. Yeah. Have you ever been to the Yukon?
No, but maybe one day I'll go. It'd be cool.
Have you been to other provinces in Canada besides Ontario?
Only Quebec, and I'm sure I've been to New Brunswick and Nova Scotia at some point, for sure.
Huh.
But not Prince Edward Island, not Newfoundland, and nothing west of Ontario, unfortunately.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do this, Mike-DELL?
Sure.
As soon as this COVID stuff's over, I'm coming up to Canada and we're taking a road trip. We'll hit every province.
You know, what'd be even cooler? A train trip.
Oh, all right, sure.
Yeah.
Save on gas.
Sure. Yep.
All right, so this Narya, this Snowbird, she's the daughter of Nelvana, a goddess of the northern lights. And this Nelvana made the sweet, sweet love with a mortal man. And she gave birth to Snowbird. But the shaman, our buddy Michael Two Young Men, he found the pregnant Nelvana in the woods, and he helped deliver Snowbird. So he knows Snowbird.
Yeah, that's referenced here, right? Yep.
Yeah, and Snowbird, she's a shapeshifter. She can fly. She also has what's known as post-cognition, which is kind of like knowing what happened in the past, which basically we all do.
Yeah, exactly.
So I didn't understand why this was so impressive, but I guess she could go to like, she could show up at your house, Mike-DELL, and she could tell what happened there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, within like 6 months, or 6 weeks, or 6 days, or something. 6 is involved in the limit. Yeah, because at first when you hear post-cognition, that doesn't sound that impressive. I mean, I could pick up a history book and tell you what happened.
Right.
But no, when she goes to a specific spot, she can tell what happened. So think of all the stories she could tell about Mike-DELL's secret headquarters.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, my goodness.
Not much to tell, I tell you.
She can also heal herself a bit, but her powers are tied into Canada.
Right.
So when she leaves Canada, she gets weaker and weaker.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Mike-DELL.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
All right, 2 left. Marina. And she shows up a little bit in this. She first appeared in Alpha Flight 1. She was created by John Byrne alone. Mm-hmm. And she's an amphibious alien from the... okay, I have it down here as plowed. But that is not true. That is a spell check screwing up my notes.
Is it Plodex?
Plodex, I think, is the name of the alien race. Right? Or something like that. Similar. But anyway, so they plant these eggs on Earth, this alien race, and her egg hatched in Newfoundland, Mike-DELL. Another Canadian. Newfoundland, up northeast of Canada. And so this couple found her as a little amphibious baby, and they raised her as their child. But she's like green skin, and she would later become the wife of Namor, the Submariner.
Right.
Like, I totally forgot she had any association with Alpha Flight.
No, I knew that. That's how I know her. Also, just so you know, it's pronounced Newfoundland.
Newfoundland, not Newfoundland.
Yeah. No, like you don't really say Newfoundland. I mean, you could say Newfoundland, but you'd just say it's just Newfoundland.
Newfoundland.
Yeah. You know.
So that's one must. I saved the best for last.
Puck.
Eugene Milton Judd is his real name, and his first appearance was Alpha Flight 1 in 1983, just created by John Byrne solo. He's 3'6", 230 pounds. That's even shorter than Webster. Right. If you can put that in perspective. He was actually born in 1914 in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
I forgot he was really... I didn't know he was old. I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know his history either. When he was 8 years old, he killed a bear to feed his family. And when his belly was full of bear meat, he said, "I vow to have an interesting life."
Really?
So that's what he did. He had an interesting life. He became a mercenary and a fortune hunter. He was traveling the globe, and one day he was. Oh, by the way, the real Eugene Milton Judd, he was 6'6".
Really?
So he was a big dude, and he was traveling around, and he was looking for something called the Black Blade of Baghdad. But when he found it, he accidentally freed the spirit of an ancient Persian sorcerer named Black Razor, but it's spelled Raazer.
Okay.
2 A's. Maybe he's Finnish. I don't know. Black Razor. So this evil sorcerer, in order to contain him again, Puck offered up his own body. So like Black Razor was contained within Puck's body. I know that sounds really gay, but no, I don't know what that means. But anyway, he how should I put this? He transformed Puck from 6'6" to 3'6", and in the exchange of doing that, he also granted him a longer life.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, I did not
know
that.
So his lifespan was increased, his size was decreased. I don't know. That sounds like a terrible deal. I don't know.
Right.
But also the other thing, he has intense pain because of this. Because his body got shrunk, he's always in a lot of pain.
Interesting, okay.
But I had no idea this was Puck's history.
No, I didn't either. Somehow I missed that.
Although I like the fact that he came from Saskatchewan.
Yeah, it's cool.
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what else about Puck. He had a daughter. She became Puck 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
Not
T-O-O
Puck also.
or T-W-O?
Yeah, Puck the number 2.
Oh.
Puck 2.
Are we going to talk about who these characters are analogous to in the X-Men?
In terms of the X-Men, sure. I guess you would say Puck would be Wolverine, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Because he's a little hairy fella. And Puck's powers are just like he's super like athletic and nimble and, I don't know, kind of strong.
Right.
Somewhat invulnerable, maybe a little bit. Not really. But he can take a beating, I guess. Marina, I don't know, who would you say Marina is like?
That's a good question. I have no idea. Because obviously Snowbird is like Storm, kind of, right?
Yes, because Storm's kind of like the nature, tied to nature and the weather and stuff like that.
Sasquatch would be Colossus.
Yes, big strong guy.
Aurora would be Phoenix at that time, right?
I suppose.
North Star?
Quicksilver, but he wasn't part of the X-Men.
No, I don't know. Now I was going to say, who would Nightcrawler be? Maybe Nightcrawler is sort of North Star, but not really.
Yeah, what about Shaman?
Shaman, maybe Thunderbird, kind of, even though he died. Or maybe Banshee. Banshee, probably, at the time.
And Guardian would be Cyclops?
Right, yeah.
Alright.
Marina doesn't really match up with anyone, unless you want to say later on there would have been, what's her name, Kitty Pryde.
I don't even remember Marina in those early appearances of Alpha Flight.
No,
in the X-Men. Like, I don't even remember. Yeah.
Well, no, because she didn't come in until Alpha Flight number 1, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so
that makes perfect sense.
Right.
Because I had no knowledge of the series, so that means I had no knowledge of Marina as Alpha Flight. Yeah.
Right.
All right. This is all coming together nicely, Michael. All right, so in this issue, there's also an evil Alpha Flight called Omega Flight. Mm-hmm. And these were former members of Beta and Gamma Flight who were recruited by Jerome Jackson. And that's Jackson.
From the Jackson 5, anyway.
So we'll talk about him when we get into the story. But the members here are Delphine Courtney, who's a robot, a secret robot. That's the best kind of robot, the secret robot. Then we have Box, who's a creator, a big robot whose creator was Roger Box, B-O-C-H-S, but the robot is called Box, B-O-X.
Right.
And Roger Box had his legs amputated below the knee, so he created this robot, and then he could control it mentally, I guess.
Right.
I don't know how, but he did. Then there's Wild Child, who's kind of like a dollar store Wolverine. Diamond Lil, who was like, her body's super durable like a diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a guy named Smart Alec.
They're running out of names at that point.
His real name is Alec Thorne, and he was just really smart, so they call him Smart Alec. And then there's another guy named Flashback, who he kind of has a cool power. He can pull future versions of himself into this timeline and have them appear. And so that means he can pretty much call on endless versions of himself. Like, this is me from next Thursday at 4 o'clock. This is me from next Thursday at 4:05.
But I wonder if they show the future when that next Thursday at 4 o'clock happens. Do they pop out of existence, right?
I don't understand how it works, but it's pretty cool. And like his costume is white with like black, like a white triangle like chest piece with like black legs and arms. But his future selves are inversed, so their outfit is mostly black with a little bit of white.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
But in a way, he's kind of like the what is this? Madrox, the multiplying man, right?
The multiple man, yeah.
Multiple man, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit like that. So, all right, that brings those are all the characters in this book. Holy hell, there's a lot of characters.
Oops. Pardon me, I just knocked over my microphone.
Yeah, that'll happen.
I'm so excited about getting through that list.
I know, it's a lot of characters. And this is a special double-sized issue, Mike-DELL.
That's right. Twice as good.
$1. Costs $1. So describe the cover for the kids.
Sure. I believe this is a play on a classic Avengers cover, but I might be wrong. But basically we see the sights, like someone looking... It's supposed to be someone looking through, what is that called? A scope on a gun?
Yeah, like a sniper looking at their targets.
So you see all the members of Alpha Flight, and, unbeknownst to them, they're being targeted. And then at the top it says, special double-sized issue. And then Alpha Flight, and at the bottom, and one shall surely die. Yeah,
that's like the cheapest way to get heat in comic books. Just say, someone's going to die.
Right. And they used to have this quite a bit, and usually it would be a fake-out, right? Usually.
Yes. Well, someone legit dies in this issue, but, in comic books they never stay dead. So,
right. I'm not going to spoil it yet, right?
So the big splash page we have in One Shall Surely Die again. Stan Lee presents a chilling tale of tragedy for Canada's greatest superheroes.
Or only superheroes, right.
Yeah. So the splash page, we see Heather Hudson, who's dressed in her basic uniform of pink jeans, pink pants, pink turtleneck, and big glasses. And she has a ponytail. She always reminded me of like Gabe Cotter's wife on Welcome Back, Kotter.
I don't remember. I did watch that show though, but I don't remember.
What about Bailey from WKRP?
I watched that show too, but I don't remember. I don't remember anything about it.
All right. Well, she's very similar to those two characters. And then we have another lady in the background. This is the Delphine Courtney,
right?
Who we don't know she's a secret robot yet.
Right.
But she's dressed all like stylish and slick, and she's got a crazy haircut. How would you describe the haircut?
It's kind of like I don't know. It's like crookedly cut bangs that go into like a sweeping curl under her chin. It's really weird. Yeah, like the left side of her face has the hair going longer. It's almost like she had a normal haircut. She was getting it cut short, and then she had to leave the appointment. Right. Or she turned her head the wrong way. Yeah, something. Yep. So what are they talking about here, Mike-DELL? So Heather Hudson, or is she Heather Hudson yet? Yeah, she is. Yeah, they're married. Yeah, because they're married. She's basically been brought here by Delphine Courtney for a meeting with James Hudson, her husband, but he hasn't shown up yet. So Heather's all pissed off, and so they're getting to this argument, and then she's basically ready to, I don't know, do what, but then all of a sudden, Delphine is like, well, I'm gonna show you. So she plays her this tape of this guy talking, and we don't know who it is yet. But then Heather says, "You," right, which is what everyone in comic books says when they're shocked by who the person is. So then we find out on the next page it's actually Jerry Jackson, who is the father of, what's his name? Is he the father of someone? No, he's not. Jerome Jackson, right?
No. He was just a guy who worked at Amcan Petrochemical Company with James Hudson. And because James Hudson stole that suit that he had invented and wouldn't let them use it as a military weapon, Jackson got fired.
Right.
And his life just spiraled out of control.
Right, so we kind of see his origin here. And I love how John Byrne does this. He explains for a couple panels, then he says, but of course you know all this, don't you? Because she does know it, because it happened to her. But anyway, kind of. But anyway, so then we show he gets fired from his job. He can't get a job anywhere. His wife and kids leave him. And then, of course, we see the classic shot of him trying to hang himself, but he gets discovered by the landlady. So then he...
Well, a couple things we got to point out here.
Okay.
First, when he says that you know all this already, don't you? He was talking about James Hudson stealing that ribbon.
Right, yeah.
So that's just the initial bit. She doesn't know all this other stuff about how his life fell apart.
No. Yeah, so basically after his paths crossed with James Hudson, then this is what we're finding out what happened to him after, his tragic backstory.
Yeah, he gets fired from his job. His wife leaves him and takes the kids. He can't get hired anywhere. But Mike-DELL, look at the first panel, top left, on page, I don't know what page this is.
5?
Page 4. Page 4. Where the wife is leaving with the kids.
Okay.
Now, I'll be honest. I think he dodged the bullet there. You know?
You might say that, yeah.
That is not a good-looking lady.
Right.
So, count your blessings. You should be like, oh, thank you, James Hudson.
But instead, no.
Yeah.
Instead, he tries to kill himself.
Yeah, he tries to hang himself. Like you said, the landlady finds him, so they save his life, but he suffered brain damage, and he lost the use of his legs, so now he's in a wheelchair.
Right. I don't know why, but I laughed at this. I'm sorry, but I had failed in my attempted self-destruction, but my crude noose had cut off oxygen long enough to cause brain damage. I would never walk again. For some reason, I laughed out loud. I don't know why. I mean, I know it's...
Maybe because you're a despicable human being, Mike-DELL, with no empathy.
That could be it. But anyway, so then back to the origin. So then, he kind of... he sees the first public appearance of Guardian, right? Because basically what has happened is Guardian stole the helmet but left the suit, right? So, but the helmet is the key thing, because without the helmet, the suit won't work, right?
Yes.
So all of a sudden we see this guy appear who's got abilities similar to the suit, so he's kind of suspicious. So he goes to the public library and starts perusing, old newspapers, and basically comes across a reference to James Hudson having connections, he's an operative of the Ministry of Defense. So then he just uses a payphone and calls the ministry in Ottawa. He's like, hello, I'd like to speak to Dr. James Hudson, please. Hudson speaking, who is this, please? So that's when you realize, oh my God, it's him. He's the Guardian, right?
Yep.
So then he goes to...
by the way, Mike-DELL, I feel obligated as an editor to point out there was a mistake here in the writing.
Where?
When he says when he's poring over the papers.
Okay.
For the next several months, I lived in the public libraries, poring over every reference to Guardian in the bound newspaper files. They spell pouring Pouring, and that means like spilling things over the papers. When you're reading something like it's pouring Pouring. So
interesting.
I'm always because I work as an editor, Michael. I do this all day, and I'm always torn when we do these comic books if I should keep track of the typos and the mistakes.
And there's a lot, you're saying.
Yeah, but I don't. I think the leader out of the gate, the first 45 issues or whatever we've done, was that Captain Marvel that we did.
Oh, who was that by? That was
Starlin, Jim Starlin.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. There's like 3 or 4 within a 2-page run there. It was
wow.
But I try to turn off the editor brain when I'm reading these.
Sure.
But for you kids out there, Poring. It means reading something.
Wow.
Pouring everything. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Interesting. Okay, you learn something new every day. So anyway, so then he goes to Roxxon Oil, which is obviously the analogy for Exxon Mobil, right? In the Mobil.
And like they're kind of like the are they the chief? Well, Amcan went out of business, right?
Right.
They went bankrupt, or no? I can't remember. Did they or?
I don't know.
Yeah, or was Roxxon just like the big competitor to them?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So then he's got this plan. So he pitches his plan to the head of Roxxon, and he's like, I outlined my plan, and he took me to the Special Developments Department, there to meet a lady who was indeed who was special indeed, Delphine Courtney.
Yeah, she looks very special there. That's a good drawing by John Byrne.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And so basically now he so then he meets this other guy. Wait, did they say who this other guy is?
Well, he sends Delphine out to she serves as his legs because he's still in a wheelchair. So she goes out to try and recruit all these other people to join Omega Flight, which is his evil Alpha Flight. And because Department H got disbanded. I forget when, but they got disbanded. So these Gamma and Beta Flight people were no longer in the program. So they sent this Jackson fella sent Courtney around to recruit the former members to Omega Flight.
Right. And the purpose
so that's what we're seeing here.
Right. Yeah. And the purpose is the death of James McDonald and the destruction of Alpha Flight, right?
Of James McDonald Hudson.
Of James McDonald Hudson, right.
Not to confuse kids, yeah.
And
McDonald's
so anyways,
his middle name.
So then Heather Hudson's like, well, shit, right? So she's like, I'm out of here. And then Delphine Courtney throws her across the room, and so the reader's like, whoa, where did she get this strength from, right? So they start arguing back and forth, and now Delphine's slapping her across the face, and then Heather does what anyone would do in that situation, and that's rip her face off, rip Delphine's face off. And then she's like, oh, she's shocked to see what she sees underneath. But guess what? We got to wait to see several pages to find out what this twist is because we don't know yet. So then we cut over to Snowbird and Shaman, who are hanging out in Ontario on like a hilltop, kind of, a cliff. And they're talking about, their powers and all that. And they're talking about how they're both, what do they call them? Adepts. Right?
You lost me with the depths. What?
Yeah, she goes, perhaps you read amiss the signs. The fates struggle mightily, their secrets to keep, even from adepts such as us. Like they're adept.
At picking up the energy and the feelings of what's going on. Because they sense something's wrong.
Right.
And I guess they're waiting there because they've sent out... Guardian had sent out a distress signal to all the Alpha Flight members. So they're waiting. They got there first, and they're waiting for the other Alpha Flight members to show up.
Right. And then we cut over to a photocopy picture of Vancouver. Really cool.
You seem to be angry about the Photoshop or the photocopy pictures.
Oh, did you see what I posted today?
I did see that. Yeah, on the Twitter. We'll get to that in a minute. It comes a little later.
Don't like that. Yeah.
I'll be honest, really Mike-DELL. I still would like to draw a comic book, and I'm still efforting to get better. I'm using photocopy backgrounds all the time.
Really? Interesting. I mean, I guess it's not
how
the
long
worst
it would
thing.
take to draw that cityscape? Oh my god.
Yeah, but you could just draw a bunch of squares and call them buildings. I mean, no one's gonna notice, right? It's just it's just telling a story. That's how I see it, anyway.
Well, so does a photocopy. Right? Tells a story.
It's not my favorite thing, but anyway.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, so then we cut over to Walter Langowski, right?
Yes.
He's hanging out waiting for Aurora to come back.
Yes.
She flies in, and right away she wants to get down to business, right?
Yeah, she looks super sexy in this red bathing suit.
Right. But he's like, we ain't got time for that. And he's like, why don't you go change into your costume? And then she changes in the blink of an eye. She changes into her costume.
Yeah,
she's so fast.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
And he actually makes a comment. He's like, I will never get used to her speed.
Yeah, because we got one panel of him kind of looking towards the camera, and she's in the background in her red bathing suit. And then the very next panel, he looks back, and she's in her super outfit.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. I thought that was nice.
So then, So then, this is what's always funny. I noticed this twice in this comic. Whenever a team doesn't have like a Quinjet or a Blackbird,
Yeah.
it's like someone's always got to jump on someone's back. It just makes it so awkward. They used to do that in Justice League all the time, where they'd all be flying towards the camera, but then Batman would be on Superman's back or something. It's just so stupid, you know?
But one other thing we need to point out here: this Walter what is his name? Langkowski.
Well, I think it's Langowski.
Yeah, he is a scientist, so he developed a special suit that he wears
Right.
when he flies with Aurora or North Star, because they fly so fast that the wind would damage him, you know? Like
Right.
if the human fly on the back of that, that airplane.
Right. With the wind and the rain, yeah.
Yeah, so he puts the special suit on it, which basically looks like a large condom that he gets inside.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's really no design to it, is there?
No, and he's riding on her back. Justice League never wore large condoms when they were riding on each other's back, did they?
That's true. No, they didn't.
So then, so they're making their way to the point to meet Shaman and Snowbird. Then we cut to, hey, look, it looks like he kind of drew this city, Mike-DELL, don't you think?
Toronto?
Yeah, it looks like, well...
I think that's another photocopy.
Yeah, I guess
especially
so.
the bottom half. That's clearly a photocopy. And then the next picture's a photocopy of a bunch of houses.
Yeah, I suppose so.
See, but you see the drawing in the background, like the building outlines?
Yes.
See that? That's all you need to do for a city, trust me.
But anyway, we're going to see Puck.
Yep.
And he's meditating.
Yes.
Because again, he's trying to isolate his centers of pain, because he's always in pain.
Right.
Because of being shrunk. So, poor fella.
So then, yeah, he hears the call, because he's got a thing implanted in his ear, I guess, a microscopic
Yeah, I
beacon.
guess all Alpha Flight members have a little sensor implanted in their brain.
Right.
So
Yeah, pretty cool, pretty efficient there. So then he hears the ping, puts on his costume, almost as quickly as Aurora,
yes.
and he's off to the races, right?
I like they show him waiting on top of the roof to get picked up by somebody, and it's all in shadow except for the giant P.
Right,
like
right.
That's pretty cool. The giant P on his costume for Puck.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, so now it's North Star. This is Aurora's brother. So he lands on the roof. They chat for a bit, and then once again, someone is riding on someone's back.
Yeah, I noticed Puck doesn't need a huge condom. He just rides on his back.
Right. Good point.
Well, I guess, like I said, he's not invulnerable, but he's more durable than the average human.
Okay.
I should say. But so he doesn't have to worry about the human fly, wind, burn, and rain.
Right.
He can take it.
So then we cut over to... Oh, just a minute here. I gotta...
Namor and Marina.
Right. So, we're in Atlantis here, right? With Homo Mermanus.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
It's like Homo sapien, but it's Homo Mermanus.
Oh, that's right.
Whatever, yeah.
Mermanus.
So that's Atlanteans. Yep.
Yeah, like mermaids and mermen and mermaids.
Right.
I guess.
Right.
Yeah, so like Marina, she doesn't hear the little distress call because she has it on a bracelet. She doesn't have it injected into her skull. So her and Namor are making the sweet, sweet love underwater. They don't even hear the distress signal. So Marina is not involved in any of this.
Right. So then we cut over to everyone meeting on the hilltop, and we see Walter taking off his condom.
Yes.
It's kind of ridiculous, but whatever. And then the brother and sister are arguing about something, but we don't really find out what yet. Do we? No.
Not yet. Well, he's mad at... They had a fight in a previous issue about something, because there's a little editor's note. See issue 8 and judge for yourself. Because he said something harsh to his sister. Right. And he also isn't happy that she's dating Walter.
Right.
He's not a fan of that. But let me just say, Mike-DELL, John Byrne draws Aurora spectacularly.
Yeah, he's pretty good at drawing sexy ladies, that's for sure.
Yeah, she looks great. So then North Star and Langkowski, who of course is Sasquatch, they get in a fight. And North Star pushes him down, and Walter turns into Sasquatch right before our eyes. And he just shreds the condom because he just screwed right out of it.
Right.
Pops right out of it. And that's a great picture of Sasquatch, though, when he's like grabbing North Star.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, yep.
Pretty cool. It's awesome. Look at that.
It's not bad, yeah.
Oh my goodness, you hate John Byrne.
We'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this later.
So Puck intervenes and like kicks Sasquatch in the face to let go of North Star. And Sasquatch rips a tree out of the ground, and he says, I'm going to uproot this makeshift hockey stick. We'll see if I can score a few goals with your sawed-off little body." But he misses them. I guess we should say what's going on here is Sasquatch is becoming more savage recently. Like, he's been losing control. When he becomes Sasquatch, he's becoming more vicious and mean and, animalistic. So, Shaman, what does he do, Mike-DELL, to try and control Sasquatch?
He, hold on, I was counting the pages, the number of pages. There's actually 6 pages of fight scenes, so I gotta go back now.
Yeah, it's great.
So Shaman, what does he do? He sticks his stick in the ground. And what does he actually do? Oh, it makes vines grow, right? Yeah,
it causes a bunch of vines to grow out of the ground and entangle Sasquatch. So everything looks calm. Everything looks all right. We're calm things down. No, North Star runs over and starts punching Sasquatch in the head.
Right. I'm going to teach him the error of his ways, right.
But I think this is cool. To untrained eyes, it appears a single blow. But Sasquatch feels as 100 blows fall in less than a second. That's how fast North Star is.
Right.
Punches him 100 times.
It'd be nice if John Byrne drew that, like a bunch of, punches, but I guess it's easier to just tell it, to explain it in a box, right?
But I almost think it's cooler that we don't see them. I don't know.
Okay.
Because, Mike-DELL, why? We have untrained eyes.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Okay.
So.
All right. Then Snowbird turns into a snowbird. Yeah,
a big old owl to calm North Star down. And then Shaman does something. He uses some magic dust to freeze everybody. They calm down. And then he gets Aurora to calm down Sasquatch.
Right.
She soothes the savage beast.
Right. And then Shaman uses his powers. See, I don't remember. Do they explain how he knows where they're going? But he teleports them.
Because Guardian put out a distress signal, and I guess he knows. I don't know.
Okay.
Who knows? But I like how he teleports them. He conjures up some mystic dust in a big circle, and as the dust floats to the ground, they disappear.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a good effect. Yep.
So then the next page, they just appear. Boom! It's a big splash page. And it looks like it's probably a 2-page spread, huh?
Yes,
right, it is?
Yeah.
And we Guardian's in the foreground fighting the Omega Flight, and then Alpha Flight appears in the background, and he says, "Hey, Alpha Flight, thanks for showing up. Pick a partner and start fighting."
Yeah.
Music to my ears.
Right. Yeah, Mike-DELL's in heaven now.
I love this.
Yep, and then they follow through. We get Smart Alec fighting Guardian, and I love this.
No.
Oh no, wait,
that
flashback. No, but hold on. I love this flashback, or rather, one of your future men. Brutal. Anyway.
And when I first read this, the flashback says, "As you say, Smart Alec," I thought he was just insulting him, like Smart Alec, you jackass.
Right.
But no, that's actually his name.
That's his
Alec.
actual name. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. So Guardian's fighting the flashbacks of future selves, and he just keeps popping in there with all these future selves, and there's 6 or 7 of them, because none of the Omega Flight people can fly, but he can pop these future selves into thin air, they can just appear in the air. So they're all jumping onto Guardian, tying him up, keeping him occupied. So then Aurora launches into the fray, and she goes after Wild Child, and she calls him ugly.
Right, calls him ugly, yep.
And in fairness, he is very ugly. But he cuts her with his claws. And she's in trouble. Yeah, look at that. And then Snowbird tries to get involved, but something happens to her. She, starts freaking out.
Yeah, she kind of just stumbles and stops, and her limbs are weak. And do they explain what happens there?
Not entirely. I think it's just that they're not in Canada anymore.
Oh, right, because she's not in Canada.
So she starts to get weaker and weaker. And then she also, so Diamond Lil pulls a hair out from her own head and uses that as a garrote to choke Snowbird. And because her hair is so, like diamond, it's so strong. And Snowbird says, "It bites into my throat. No, no, I must not bleed." I don't know. Seems weird. I must not bleed.
That's what I say whenever I'm getting choked.
Yeah, like, is there a reason she can't bleed?
I don't know. It must be some mystical thing, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, if that's a weakness of hers, or is it just the fact that she knows she's growing weaker, and if she starts bleeding, she's going to be even weaker than
Even
that?
more
I
weaker.
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows? So Shaman then uses some magic dust to separate them and get Diamond Lil off. I don't know. It's all like the magic dust surrounds Diamond Lil, but it's all like a bunch of little dudes in the dust.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. Holy moly.
You rip on John Byrne for cutting corners, but this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah. And they're monkeying with their mind.
Uh-huh.
So he's trying to get Snowbird, and he pulls Snowbird up to her feet, and he sees, oh my goodness, she's an old lady. What happened to Snowbird?
Right.
Oh, it's because we're outside of Canada. Son of a bitch.
Very cool.
Yeah. So while he's holding Snowbird, the withering, dying frame of Snowbird, Smart Alec sneaks up behind him. And again, like, Smart Alec, what does he do in a fight? Like, he's just a smart guy.
He's just a smart aleck. Yeah, he doesn't do much.
Yeah. He sits over in the corner, solves math equations while everyone else is fighting. But he sneaks up behind Shaman and grabs his purse.
Yep. And then we get to my least favorite sequence in the book.
Because he says, now, finally, I can stare into the purse and see what's really in here. What magical stuff you have in here. And you describe what happens now, Mike-DELL.
Well, there's two things that happen. One is according to the images. The other is according to the description. According to the images, we see a picture of Smart Alec that is then photocopied twice, and each time is closer than the previous one, so it's supposed to mimic like a camera zooming in. But according to the pictures, nothing happens. But according to the text, he's looking in, and this is what he's seeing. He looks on all wavelengths of light, far, far beyond human capabilities of perception, which it would have been nice to see, but we didn't. Simultaneously, he probes high into the ultraviolet, deep into the infrared, with radiation not normally considered part of sight he sees. You want me to keep going?
Yeah.
And he learns anything by this seeing, he will tell no one. And if he learns anything by this seeing, he will tell no one. When Michael Two Young Men's grandfather taught him the ways of the medicine bag, he warned him against ever looking into it. Now, as the last dwindling spark of his sanity flickers out, for an instant, Smart Alec knows why. So cool description, but it would have been nice to see it. But okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts. The next panel, it's a huge shot of Box and Sasquatch fighting.
Right.
And Box picks up Sasquatch and throws him into a wall. And Sasquatch is nervous though because he wants to stay calm because he's worried if he will lose control if he starts fighting too hard, you know.
Right.
It's a internal conflict for the Sasquatch.
And then the ugly guy is still fighting Aurora.
Wild Child.
Yeah, Wild Child. And smashes him. What's his name? Smashes him to a wall.
Yeah, because Wild Child's still beating up the bloodied Aurora, and she's kind of like losing her. I was losing her mind a bit. Like she's switching personality. She's going back to the timid John Murray because she's injured, and so North Star flies in, grabs a Wild Child, and just throws him into a wall. Boom.
Right. And then after, 20 pages, we finally cut back and find out what the big twist was. Well, it turns out Delphine Courtney is actually, tell them, Mike-DELL,
a robot.
Right. But it's funny because Heather makes the mistake of calling her an android.
Yeah, but I like Delphine Courtney. She says, no, I'm a robot. I'm not an android.
Right. Exactly.
Robot pride. Yeah.
That's right. So, that's basically just, chatting back and forth, and then she leaves, and then Heather, she's like, I've got a feeling it won't get any closer to Mac unless I play a good little mousey and walk right into it. So she's going to walk into the trap, right?
Yeah, this is so weird. I don't get this. So she follows, like, Delphine Courtney leaves the room, and she just follows her, but really, we'll get to the ending. We'll talk about it at the ending.
Exactly. So then, back to the fight. Puck is fighting Smart Alec. Guardian is fighting.
No. Puck beats up Flashback.
Oh, and I'm confused because he says at the beginning, what does he say? As you say, Smart Aleck. So I kept thinking, oh, he's Smart Aleck, but he's not Smart
No. That's direct address, Mike-DELL, when you put a comma in front of it. Yeah.
Right. Oh, thank you, editor. There you go.
So Puck knocks out Flashback, and when he does, all the future flashbacks disappear. So Guardian is now free.
Right.
But then Box runs and jumps on Guardian and tackles him down like an elevator shaft.
Right.
And they fall all the way down. But really, it's not like, I don't know what that is. It's just a big square opening leading to a large pit.
And all of this is just generic, like, computer wall, things that are in all comic books at this point, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about
panels and
we'll talk about the art a bit later, because there's some things we got to say about that. Yeah,
right.
But so Box just starts beating the holy hell out of Guardian, and he's like, he rips his helmet off and he starts smashing him. And Hudson's like, hey, Box, what are you doing? I thought we were buddies. Like, how could you turn on me like this? And he says, because I'm not Roger Box. I am Jerome Jackson.
Right. And then he slaps him.
Jerome Jackson is controlling the Box robot.
Right.
So James Hudson says, only one chance. I got to tear out some circuits. Wait for just the right moment, then now. And he sticks him under Box's head, and he blows him up. Boom. Right. And we cut to, we see Jerome Jackson in a wheelchair with a helmet on controlling Box, but it fries his brain. All the feedback from the explosion. So Jackson's dead.
Right.
He died. And my favorite robot, Delphine Courtney, is saying, Mr. Jackson, what is it? What's wrong? And then that's Roger Box there on the bottom, or on the next panel, on the floor, they're tied up.
Right.
With his legs. Because I got to tell you, when I first saw that guy, I thought, wow, that looks like Jackson's ex-wife.
Not quite.
No, that's Roger Box. So then, Mike, we got back to Hudson, Guardian. He's all beat up. His costume's ripped up. You can see all the circuitry underneath it from the explosion. His face is swollen and black eye bleeding. He's all beat up. Box has been destroyed. But there's a trouble, Mike. What's wrong?
Well, it doesn't seem to be much, but apparently there's something wrong with his suit. And he's like, I better disconnect my power pack. The suit's taking such a pounding, it'll blow any second if I don't cut it loose. I don't know why, but okay.
He says, I've got about 10 seconds.
10 seconds. So then we actually see the countdown as he's trying to, like, take apart this thing and remove it from his suit. And he's
so on the next page, my guy, we got like 9 panels.
Right.
And each panel is shaped like the number.
Right.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's okay for you to compliment John Byrne.
Sure.
You can say it's okay.
It's not bad, yeah. And so he's narrating as he goes, and he's taking apart this thing. I don't know why this is necessarily going to blow up. I don't think they really explain that, but it's going to. So then, on the second last page, we finally see where Heather was going. And of course, we have a little thought bubble. I wonder what's behind this door. Mac? Mac? Heather, no, don't come in. Don't come in here. Get! And then boom, explosion. And then he's on fire. And then Heather. And she's like, ma. And then the last page, it's just a big fiery stump and then her standing over him. Mac! The end. That's it. And then it says, next issue. It's not over yet. Guardian is dead. But for Heather, the nightmare is only beginning. Join us in 30 days. So yeah, that's it.
So Guardian, the team leader of Alpha Flight, blows himself up accidentally because he's distracted by his wife walking through a door. And she says, I wonder what's behind this door. That's my favorite line in the whole book.
Yeah.
But again, so the plan was remember when Delphine Courtney, the robot, left the room and Heather followed her, apparently it was all part of a plan. So the plan was to have Heather wander around the complex to find the mystery door just at the right time when the power pack would be exploding.
Right.
Makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. No.
What are you going to do? John Byrne. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think the art in those final, the explosion, I liked what he did there with like the inking and the coloring and everything. I thought it looked good there.
It was okay, but we can talk about that later, right? Or we can talk about it now.
Yeah, because he wrote and drew this. So John Byrne, he was born in 1950 in England, and he claims that Jack Kirby, Neil Adams, and Steve Ditko are his biggest influences. He attended the Alberta College of Art and Design in Canada, in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, I should say. Mm-hmm. He started doing work for Charleston Comics in 1972, and his work caught the attention of Chris Claremont. And his first gig was Iron Fist, issues 1 through 15 from 1975 to 77, because Claremont was writing that. And the original artist they had to do the project, he missed the deadline, so he got fired. So Claremont suggested Byrne, and that's how he got the gig, I guess. And that series only lasted 15 issues. But they wrote and wrote and drew all of them, Claremont and Byrne. Then he did 3 issues of the Champions, Mike-DELL's favorite superhero team.
Yep.
Champions, issues 12 through 15 in 1977.
Huh.
He did 18 issues of Marvel Team Up between issues 53 and 100 from 77 to 80.
Right.
But the big thing here, though, is he did Uncanny X-Men.
Right.
108 and 109, and then he did issues 111 to 143 from 77 to 81. Although he first drew the X-Men on Marvel Team Up. One of those issues was when he first drew the X-Men, and then he took over the series, and he was also co-plotting the series with Claremont.
Right.
And this is where I know Byrne from, and I mean, these are my favorite comic books ever, this run of X-Men. So I love John Byrne, just because of that.
I'm surprised we haven't done it yet in 47 episodes.
I know, because the Proteus saga was here, the first Kitty Pryde, the new Hellfire Club, the Dark Phoenix saga, Days of Future Past, the Alpha Flight stuff with Wolverine and everything. This was a great stuff. Easily the best era of X-Men, no?
Well, possibly the most creative, but the best era is still New X-Men by Grant Morrison, in my opinion.
Oh, no. God,
no. Have you read it?
Yes.
Oh, this
is way better.
No.
Way better.
There's a huge
Not
difference.
Even close.
There's a huge
Not
difference.
Not even close.
You can't give those comics to an adult and have them enjoy it. The new X-Men, you can. No, you can't. I've tried giving them to people, and they find them unreadable.
Oh, no.
Yeah, trust me.
I saw that little review you did of the Dark Phoenix saga.
That was great. We got so many hateful comments all by you.
I would like to just beat the hell out of that guy you had in that video. He's a clown.
He's great.
Tell him I said that, Mike-DELL.
Yeah?
You say, hey, I have a guy named Mike-DELL. He says you're a clown.
Oh, yeah?
Because he was shitting all over Claremont and Byrne. Forget it. I can tell you what, that guy likes Sandman. I'm going to just say that right now.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, probably loves Sandman. But no, the best era of X-Men, no doubt. Grant Morrison. No way.
There's no comparison. And not only that, but not only is New X-Men better, but I've always said the Paul Smith era of X-Men is better. And that's like From the Ashes, you know? Did you ever read that?
Yeah, of course I read that. Paul Smith's my favorite X-Men artist. But
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good era, but no, you can't surpass.
Like, don't get me wrong,
Phoenix,
for the number of classic stories, like you said, Proteus, Phoenix, Days of Future Past, plus more. There's no doubt that that's the foundation of like X-Men.
Or as I like to say, the best era of X-Men.
No, yeah. But it's not. I don't think it's the best written. No way. It's good, but it's just way too dated. In a bad way.
Do you know why he left X-Men?
Yeah, actually, it's because he was getting into too many disagreements with Chris Claremont, and they would co-plot stories together, and then Claremont would change the script. Like, he would basically write it differently than they had, quote, agreed to, and then John Byrne would try to fix it. Or no, sorry, John Byrne would draw it, then Claremont would add the dialogue.
Yes.
And that's where the problems came in, because Claremont's dialogue wouldn't match up to what John Byrne drew, and so they got into arguments, and then I think what happened was, at first, Roger Stern was the editor, and he tended to side with John Byrne, but then when Louise Jones came on, she tended to side with Chris Claremont. And so, I think right after Days of Future Past, John Byrne basically said, either he goes or I go, and Louise Jones was like, see ya! And so then John Byrne quit, and that was it.
The breaking point was issue 140.
Okay.
And his final issue was 143, but they had already created those, like he had already drawn them, I think. And but when 140 came out, the opening 2 panels, the big splash page is Colossus trying to rip a tree stump out of the ground with a metal chain.
Right.
And then the next page he rips it out, and he drew it in his eye to be Colossus just ripping it out easily,
right,
with no struggle. And Claremont, the writing made it seem like it was a big struggle for Colossus to do it.
Right.
And Byrne said, "That's it. That's the last straw. I'm done."
So, what is your take on that?
Well, it sounds like Byrne's a dick.
He is a dick.
Like, I get it. You think you had something agreed upon, and then the guy changed it, and I guess it happened repeatedly, and then that was just the final straw. But John Byrne, I guess, is famous for being. I guess the best way to put it is he has a forceful personality.
Well, for anyone who defends Byrne in that situation, can I point out John Byrne also quit the Hulk after 6 issues. Just abruptly in the middle of the story. He quit Avengers West Coast in the middle of the story because of a disagreement with Tom DeFalco or Mark Grenwald. I'm trying to think of what he quit Superman kind of amicably, but he's basically Fantastic Four. He quit in the middle of the storyline because he was pissed off because Jim Shooter. I'm not even sure if he was pissed off at Jim Shooter or what happened, but he quit like mid storyline. But basically,
he hated Jim Shooter.
Yeah, he did.
Sure.
He started by liking him, and then he ended up hating him. But he's basically notorious for abandoning projects like midstream. So,
yeah.
Also, I didn't know until you told me that Claremont basically discovered him. I did not know that, because not only did he work with him on Iron Fist and Marvel Team Up and X-Men, right? Years later, Claremont was assigned to write a storyline on Justice League, and the editor thought, "Oh, this is great. I've got Chris Claremont, so I might as well get John Byrne to draw it and team them up again, right? And everyone will love it." Well, instead of just graciously accepting the assignment, John Byrne did the assignment and then publicly made fun of Claremont, like, "Oh, I could never stand Claremont's writing," and blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, why don't you just do the comic and shut up, you know? But anyway.
Yeah, because he said, like, when he was working for Charleston, Claremont noticed his work and was always asking him to collaborate on something, to draw something.
Right.
So then when, the Iron Fist, the artist fell out, it worked out. But yeah, it's just crazy that he would be so... their relationship would deteriorate that much over the years.
Right. It's unfortunate, right? Because it was a good run, definitely.
Yeah, the best run in X-Men history.
You say so. Well, most people say so.
So he drew and wrote Alpha Flight 1 through 28 from 83 to 85. He also did Avengers 164 to 166, and then 181 to 191 from 77 to 80. So while he's doing X-Men, he's also doing Avengers and Marvel Team Up, and that's a lot of work. And you mentioned his run on Fantastic Four. It was pretty notable. He has an artist. He did issues 209 to 218. Mm-hmm. Then as a writer-artist, he did 220, 221, and then 232 to 294.
Right.
So that's... although I think 294 he just wrote. Someone else drew it. I think Jerry Ordway drew it. But that's right. a 81 to 86. That's quite the run on Fantastic Four.
Right.
You know? Now, have you read any of his work on there?
Oh yeah, I used to own them all.
Was it good?
Well, it was good when I was in my teens, and then I tried to reread it in my 20s. Basically, I reread his Hulk, okay, in my 20s, and after one issue, I was like, "Oh my God, no, it can't be this bad." And then it was one of I had like that sinking feeling, and I looked over at my collection of hundreds of John Byrne comics, and I was like, "There's no way they can be that bad." And I started reading. It was almost like in The Shining when she looks at the pages and it just says, "All work and no play make Jack a dull boy." That's how I felt. Like, oh my God, I've been buying crap all this time. So I started rereading all my John Byrne comics and realizing they were all garbage. So I just gave them all away.
Do you think it's an instance of an artist who should have just stayed an artist?
Well, let's put it this way. I will definitely concede that his early stuff on Iron Fist, Marvel Team Up, and X-Men was definitely professional, polished art, right? But then
yes.
I think once he started doing FF and Alpha Flight and whatever, yeah, like he's certainly... Well, I don't even know if he's necessarily a better artist than a writer, but I just think that he got too powerful and too way overconfident. And
yeah,
that's the key problem, I think.
Because apparently then he went to DC and he did a bunch of... What did he do to DC, Mike-DELL? He did the new Superman, right?
Yeah, he rebooted Superman, yeah.
And did he do other stuff too? I didn't even really look.
A few. Like, he did a series called Legends. I can't remember what... I don't think he did much there, but then he came back to Marvel and did Namor and stuff like that, so...
And from what I read, I read a discussion of people talking about Byrne and his art, and I guess they say he really fell off a cliff, like when he went to DC, or like you said, after X-Men, his initial X-Men run, his art progressively got worse and worse.
Right.
And it seems because he was spreading himself too thin with the writing and the art, and also he was doing one complete page of art in an hour and a half.
Yeah, you can tell, right?
Yeah, he was doing at least 4 pages a day.
And that's the thing, like, sorry, go ahead.
Well, normally, like if you do 1 page a day, that's pretty rough.
Right. Yeah, like most artists I think do a page a day. You know, Kirby could do 5 a day. But the thing is with John Byrne, you're right. I think, to be honest, he got addicted to the money. Because he's like, well, if I can make X amount of money doing 3 a day, why don't I do 5 a day, right? And
if no one's complaining about the art, I'll just keep cranking it out.
Right. And also, he also started cutting corners where then he was like, okay, well, how about I start inking my own art? Then it was, how about I just start going directly to inks? And then how about, since I know I'm going to put a word balloon over here, I'm not even going to draw this part. I'm just going to draw on the word balloon so I don't have to fill in that space, you know? And so it all just became about cutting corners after that, so...
Yeah, and that's what I got from this art here in this Alpha FLEA issue. Just, I was kind of shocked at the lack of backgrounds.
Right.
Like, there are so many panels where it's just one solid color background. Now, listen, again, I said if I'm drawing a book, I'm cutting every corner I can, too. But it becomes a little glaring after a while when there's just random colored backgrounds, one after another after another. It's like, what is going on? But I'll say his figure drawing here is great. Like, I think all the figures look tremendous. But you can tell he's hurrying. Like, he's trying to do this as quickly as possible.
Right. Yeah, like, I think that... I guess it's all ego. It's just like the Image guys, right? Like, McFarlane had talent, but then he got so popular that he's like, well, I'm going to write, and I'm going to draw, and I'm going to do it all myself, and I'm a genius. And then his work just started to decline, right? And that's why I kind of think, I personally, I call John Byrne the father of Image Comics, because he's kind of the first guy to do that, where, I mean, there's such a thing as a person that can write and draw, but he was the first one, as far as I know, to do it that clearly didn't deserve it. Whereas Frank Miller is one of the best writers, I think, that ever came out of Marvel, you know? And obviously, John Byrne was popular. I just don't think his writing was good.
He's nowhere near Frank Miller level of writing.
No.
I think he got tricked, and Jim Shooter probably got tricked into thinking he could write a comic book because he was co-plotting with Claremont. But there's a huge difference between co-plotting and writing. Right.
You
know what I mean?
Like, clearly, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, he needed Claremont to bounce those ideas off, you know?
Right.
And, like, now it's just him coming up with these ideas, and there's no Claremont to say, hey, but why would Heather Hudson open that door right then?
Exactly.
Why would... You know, so...
Yeah, and I'm sure Claremont... A lot of people say Claremont needed Byrne, too, because they think that his era of X-Men is the best. And so it's like, yeah, there's probably an argument to be made there that they worked best when they were together. But I think...
not unlike Kirby and Lee, I would say.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I would definitely say Claremont is more of a writer. Like, Claremont's written novels, and he is more of a writer's background, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
A literary background.
But it's just like Byrne just stretched himself too thin, trying to do too much, and fell down. But at least we always have the greatest era of X-Men to fall back on.
Yeah, like here's the thing is... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say what about the writing, but here, did you want to say anything else?
I was just going to say about the art. You know, there are some good figures in here, but one of the worst pages is when Box is lifting up Sasquatch on digital page 29.
Oh.
Which is original 29, yeah. That to me is an example. That shot of Box, that like looks like a 12-year-old drew it. I don't know. I think the anatomy is just terrible. The inking is rushed. You know, I don't know. I just think it looks like junk.
Oh,
What
I
do you
don't think it's bad. I mean,
Okay.
he's a robot, you know, so whatever.
Yeah. I don't
No,
know.
I don't think that's bad at all. I mean, yeah, the legs are a little. He looks squat, you know, like squashed, but I don't have a problem with that.
probably the
I think there's
least
some real good stuff in here. I thought the fight, you know, I love the fights, Mike-DELL,
Right.
but I thought the fight was actually a little underwhelming.
Which one? The first, like the fight
all
between
of them.
Okay.
Or,
Yeah.
well, the big fight between Omega Flight and Alpha Flight.
Right. It
Like
was.
it
Yeah.
seemed like it all just seemed like very compartmentalized. Like one over here, there wasn't a sense that it was a big, massive brawl.
Right.
you know?
Right.
Like it just seemed like it fits and stops and starts, and I don't know. It wasn't a very compelling fight.
Right.
Let's put it that way. And I think part of that probably had to do with the backgrounds just being solid color. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you could have put other dudes in the background fighting and stuff to make it more lively.
Good
but it
point.
seemed like only one or two characters were on stage at a time. You know?
Point. Yep.
Kind of like they're fighting off on their own little bubbles and not within context of each other. But anyway, trying to think. But yeah, I mean, again, I love John Byrne. He's so good at faces and figures, and I don't know. I'm a big fan, and again, a big fan of how he drew Aurora. And,
Right.
And Delphine Courtney as well. He did a nice turn there. But what about the writing, Mike? We mentioned some of the plot holes a little bit with Heather Hudson in the door, and
I don't know. It's really hard for me to judge his writing because I've read so many John Byrne comics that they all kind of run together, and he has a lot of tropes that he uses over and over again. I mean, this was not terrible, but it also wasn't great, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of the Alpha Flight coming back together, and you know, of course, I got the internal conflicts going on, brother and sister, Sasquatch and North Star. The Sasquatch alone, just trying not to be so savage. So there's a lot of good stuff here. And, it's not bad, but yeah, there's just a couple like that line about Heather. Well, I wonder what's behind this door. That is one of the worst lines ever written in comic books.
Yep. And that's like I read a lot of Bronze Age comics, and this is not terrible. Like there's far worse, but it's also not great, you know.
It did give me a sense of an X-Men book, just the way it unfolded, like the way the team interacted, and the big fight scene. It did remind me of X-Men a lot, so I liked it. But it wasn't as good as it could have been. Put it that way.
Right.
And again, it is a double issue, and he's writing, drawing, and inking. So you can understand why he's cutting corners. This would definitely been much better if he was just the artist.
Right.
If he was just the artist. But anyway. All right, so there you go. Alpha Flight number 12. Anything else you'd like to say about this?
Not really, no. I mean...
Well, I should say Guardian does not die, sadly.
Well, he does die, but he comes back, right?
Well, he technically doesn't die. He went into a spatial rift.
Of course he did.
And some alien race found him, and they thought his costume was part of his body, so they basically made him a what's cyborg. Cyborg is the word I'm looking for. So they fused him with his machinery, and then he came back. And then before he came back, Delphine Courtney redesigned herself to be a male robot to imitate James Hudson, and she pretended to be James Hudson for a while. And then they destroyed her. And then Department H came back to life, and they wanted another James Hudson to lead their new team, so they just made a clone of James Hudson.
Huh.
So there was a clone of James Hudson running around, and then the real James Hudson came back.
Okay.
How many fucking James Hudsons can you have?
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. But
Terrible.
According to this story, according to John Byrne, he was officially dead for a while, right?
Yeah, for a while.
Right.
But he eventually came back.
Yeah. See, and this is the other thing is, as far as writing goes, if you're going to kill the leader of the team, the most popular member... Is this the way to do it? Like, you accidentally blow up your costume and
that's a very good point.
It's ridiculous, you know?
It was very, get the countdown, the 10-second countdown, and then he gets distracted by Heather, and then he blows up. Yeah, it's in a way, it's kind of like, all right, I can see what he's trying for. Like, it seems like, oh, everything's safe, everything's good, and then nope, boom, he's dead. So the old shock value of it. But I think it would have been better if he just died in Mortal Kombat with the robot guy, Box.
Right, something more dramatic, yeah.
Yeah.
But
it is kind of a letdown. But I wonder what's behind this door. So, there you go. I'm going to give it a 6, Mike-DELL.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, because I did enjoy it. I did like seeing Alpha Flight working together, and I am a John Byrne mark for the early. I like his art with the figures he does. So I liked a lot of the stuff. But yeah, the writing is bad, and the backgrounds look rushed. Well, it's not that the writing's bad. It's mostly okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
So because I'm a John Byrne mark, I'll give it the 6.
I think I'm going to have to give it a 4.
Yikes.
Only because, again, I don't hate it, but just because I know, like, it's when you know someone is capable of so much better and you can see how rushed it is, that makes it worse, I think.
But you also hate John Byrne.
Well, I don't want that to color my review, but I can't really disagree with that statement.
Yeah. I mean, let's put it this way. I love John Byrne from his X-Men days, so I gave it a 6. Mike-DELL hates John Byrne, so he gives it a 4, so probably a 5. That would be about right.
Right.
One other thing about John Byrne, we should mention, a lot of his fellow creators don't like him either.
That's right.
Because he wrote, I forget, but when Jack Kirby was feuding with Marvel over creator rights, John Byrne wrote something, an essay or some sort of editorial piece somewhere, where he said he was proud to be a company man.
Right.
And so that infuriated all his other creators. And specifically Kirby and Steve Gerber, who Gerber was also suing Marvel for the rights to Howard the Duck.
Right.
As he was a creator for Howard the Duck. So they created something called Destroyer Duck.
Yep.
And Kirby and Gerber, when they did that, they created a character named Booster Cogburn.
Right.
And that was based on John Byrne.
Right.
Because he was just a cog in the big machine.
Mm-hmm.
And the key point about this character is he had a removable spine.
Right.
So it doesn't get much more blatant than that.
No.
What they thought of John Byrne.
I met one Marvel creator who I asked if he could give me any dirt on any of the people,
You just said specifically John Byrne. Do you have any dirt on John Byrne?
No, I didn't. I just said anyone. And he said, well, there's only one guy at Marvel in the 80s that I can say was an asshole, and that was John Byrne. But I can't really tell the story because it'll reveal the identity of the person. But yeah. So. Yeah.
Well, now I want to hear the story. No one listens to this, my guy.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you, and I'll put it in a place no one will ever hear it on Flea Market Fantasy. What
else? Who do you think would be viewed as the bigger asshole, John Byrne or Jim Shooter?
That's a great question. The only thing I can say is at least Jim Shooter is nice to his fans. I think, because I've met him and he was nice to me. But John Byrne...
Yeah, I met Shooter and he was great to me.
Yeah, I met John Byrne. He was a fucking asshole to me. Oh, boy.
That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Well, we should give Byrne credit. Also, he was the guy that made Wolverine so prominent during his X-Men run. Like, Wolverine wasn't supposed to be that big of a character, and John Byrne made him that big of a character.
That's true. I'll give him that. Yep.
So we should give him credit for that.
Yeah.
Also, wasn't John Byrne the guy that when Shooter got fired, wasn't he working on a new universe title where he had Pittsburgh explode by a nuclear bomb?
I'm trying to think how. I think John Byrne had left to do Superman, and then he did in Legends, which was a miniseries. He created a character called Sunspot, even though Sunspot's in New Mutants, and in that story, it basically makes it clear that it's Jim Shooter, and then in the story, this bad guy shoots himself in the foot. So it's kind of making fun of the failure of New Universe, right? And then John Byrne came back to Marvel, and they said, "Hey, do you want to take over Starbrand now that Jim Shooter's leaving?"
That's right, Starbrand.
Starbrand. And so then he immediately, I think he retconned everything Jim Shooter did, and then he Yeah, he destroyed Pittsburgh, and I think it was just his way of getting back at him.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh is Shooter's hometown.
Right.
And he also threw a big party, I believe, and they burned Shooter in effigy.
Right.
And the dummy was filled with New Universe comics.
Right.
So, yeah, we need. Remember in the old days, MTV had that show. What was it called? A Celebrity Deathmatch with a claymation. The two celebrities would fight. Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Oh yeah, you're Canadian. You were watching. What were you watching? What's it called in Canada?
Was it what?
What's MTV called in Canada?
Oh, Much Music. Much Music.
That's right. You're watching Much Music.
Right. Yeah, we did not have MTV at all in the 80s.
Yeah. So, but this is in the 90s. But we need a celebrity death match between John Byrne and Jim Shooter.
Right.
Let's see who can. That would be pretty good.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right. So Alpha Flight number 12. There it is. What do you got next week, Mike-DELL?
Oh, you're gonna love this.
I doubt it.
I want nothing more than to please my co-host, and I know you like 70s comics, right? That's what you said.
Yes, I love 70s comics.
Right,
favorite era, especially early 70s, probably.
That's why I picked Adventure Comics number 418.
All right, I can already tell this is terrible. Adventure Comics 418.
Here's the thing: I picked this comic. Should I tell you why?
Oh yeah, obviously, because I want to know.
I picked this comic because it's the beginning of a classic run of Black Canary by Alex Toth. Okay.
I love Black Canary. When I was a kid, I swam for Black Canary. The fishnets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Are you familiar with Alex Toth?
A little bit. Like I know the name, but but I'm trying to picture like he's an artist.
Yeah, I mean, you'd know him from Super Friends. He basically designed the Super Friends. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'd recognize the style when I saw it, but I'm blanking and trying to picture it in my head right now. But, yeah.
So I'd never read this before, and I was trying to find out where it was originally printed, and it's not just its own series. It's in Adventure Comics. And so, because it's an Adventure Comics, extra bonus for Mike-DELL, you get to read also The Phantom Stranger and A Golden Age Dr. Midnight.
Oh, nice.
And the cover feature, Supergirl, the Girl of Steel.
Huh.
So you're going to read 4 DC superhero stories.
That's cheating.
I remember before we did an anthology series, and I said we should just read the one. I think it was I Vampire. I said we should just read the vampire story, but you insisted we read them all, and so I'm like, okay, well, here you go. Here's 4 of them.
Yeah. Now that I think of it, you are cheating here. You're cutting corner, getting me to read all this DC crap because you've done that I Vampire one.
That's
an anthology.
That's right.
The Christmas with the Superheroes was an anthology.
That's right.
That Poison Ivy one had 3 stories.
Secret Origins. Yep.
What the hell, Mike-DELL?
I figured out a loophole.
What a weasel.
All right.
No wonder John Byrne hates you.
All right. So anyway, this has been one of our longest episodes. Wow, look at that, eh? Twice
it for Canada.
The pages, twice the fun. So yeah, we do a new episode every week talking about a different Bronze Age comic book. You can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on the Comic Book Syndicate website, all under Comic Book Syndicate. So, until next Tuesday, disperse!